like I say, ask questions at the end if you've got any.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me? Yes. If I start talking quietly, people like, "But do this," then I know what I'm doing then. So, this afternoon, somebody said to me, what are you going to do this afternoon? So I said, "Oh, I'm going to do this." And they said, "Oh, so you're teaching?" I said, "No, I'm definitely not teaching. I can't teach you anything, but like Caroline said, I can tell you a story." So, like they say on YouTube, let's get into it. A little bit about me. Who am I? I am a daughter, a sister, and I'm a friend. I'm also a human being. So, but as the last sentence says, I can be a little bit different, and I'm going to show you why. Anybody went to school in the 90s? Yes, that's good. So I'm counting on you to make me not look like I'm not popular. Popular culture in the 90s was, if you were into the right kind of thing, it was Peter Andre. Anybody a Peter Andre fan? You put a hand up. Okay. Anybody a Take That fan? Yeah, okay, one hand up there. Anybody a Leonardo DiCaprio fan? So yes, we've got yes for everything there. Does anybody like Cooler Shaker? Does anybody know who they are? No, see, this is the definition of me. Does anybody know Meatloaf? Right, okay, so we're not too bad there then. Does anybody know who Sylvester Stallone is? Yeah, right, okay, so I'm not that bad. Okay, I like the fact that the guys knew who that was. So on the right hand side, those are all of the things that you should like when you're at a 90s secondary school. On the left side is all the stuff I liked, which set me aside from everybody else in the school. I was not a popular person, I was not hip, but I did have friends, believe it or not. Now, these friends are from primary school and high school. They were very into the Peter Andre kind of thing, whereas I was into the other. However, they did accept me for what I am. So, I was lucky in that respect. They had career goals of being a teacher, a solicitor, or a doctor, and they all achieved that. They did actually achieve all that. Me, however, I had bigger dreams. I was an avid reader. I loved reading things by Enid Blyton. Does anybody know who Enid Blyton is? Okay, a couple of nods. And I liked Bret Easton Ellis and Irving Welsh, gritty kind of masculine kind of books. Does everyone know who they are? No, okay. William Shakespeare. Now, while I don't like William Shakespeare's writing, I wanted his fame, I wanted his respect, and I wanted to have the amount of attention that across history and across the world people would enjoy. So I became a writer, and at the age of 11 I wrote my first novel, which was called The College Fears, and that was about a girl who had an eating disorder and she was miserable and she was unhappy, so she was trying to punish herself through that eating disorder. At the age of 13 I wrote The Waste of a Person. Now that one was about a girl who was, I put it as addicted to suicide. She couldn't live life as a normal person. She was unhappy, but she didn't know why. So she tried to kill herself constantly, but was rescued by her friends, by her family. What I didn't realise was that those stories, those books, were a reflection of my own unhappiness. I was a very timid, shy, lacking confidence kind of girl, which you're obviously not now. And all I wanted to be when I grew up was to fly the nest. I wanted to go to university because I thought that by going to university I would accept myself, I would be accepted by other people, and I could share my likes and dislikes for different things, and I might not stick out as much like a sore thumb. So I did. I went to university in 2000 and I made friends with a lot of different people. I shared different experiences with all of those different people. We went to music concerts together, I ran a writers club, and then I went on nights out to different kind of places where I met even more different people. Well, third year, so I went through first year just fine, I went through second year, no problem. Third year, woke up, couldn't move, could not move at all, and I had this dread feeling. I so cannot explain what that feeling was like. And it went on and on and on. Every single day was the same, where it would take hours to get out of bed, hours to do something, hours to even feel something. I had no self-esteem, I had no self-confidence. I was sleeping all of the time, as much as I possibly could, because by sleeping I didn't have to live in the real world. So I had depression. And then things got a little bit more weird. Started to hear things that weren't there. Started to see things that weren't there. Started to experience things that I didn't know what was actually going on. And that turned into mania. Now I'm assuming we all know what mania is. Yeah? So I had this overpowering sensation of wanting to do something and I had this incredible feeling of being invincible. I could do anything. I had all of these ideas which people needed to hear because I knew they were all possible. However, not the case. After a few years of turmoil, trying, finding out what was wrong, I got the diagnosis of bipolar affective disorder. Now I know we all know what that is, yeah? We'll do a little experiment. So, the NHS definition is you experience extreme highs or extreme lows. So, little game. Who gets sad every now and again? You hang up. Yeah? Who gets happy every now and again? And when something bad happens, do we get really sad? Yeah. And when something good happens, do we get really happy? Yeah. Okay. So according to the NHS, every single person in that room who experiences that thing is bipolar. We are all bipolar. And now the world is a lot more colourful than it was before. The thing is, your textbooks can tell you that kind of thing. What you will learn about the reality of the illness is that every person is different. This is my version of bipolar. As you can see, it's not that simple. It's not that. We can't fit that into 3 sentences. So I'm going to pick a few things and then we can have a look at what they might be like. So I experience crippling depression and anger and rage, and I feel sad and I feel lost. I also get obsessive over music. So I will look for meaning in lyrics. I will look for things in the singers, the way they perform. I will get obsessed with a certain type of music and I will listen to that constantly, all the way through. It can go on for days, it can go on for weeks, and it can go on for months, and it will always be the same thing. If I try to play something else, it doesn't work, I have to get rid of it, it has to be what it was. So, those are a few things. All of those things led to 6 hospital admissions at Bolton Royal Hospital. Has everybody ever been to Bolton Royal Hospital? Okay, that's a pleasant experience. I wasn't sectioned, but I did have a few trips. Now, what I want to express in this is not, I said to Caroline, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm going to tell you exactly what my life was like, exactly how it was. And this is what it feels like when you're admitted as an inpatient to a psychiatric ward. You're no longer what I listed at the beginning. It doesn't matter what you do for a living, it doesn't matter about your education, it doesn't matter that you are different from anybody else. In a psychiatric ward, you are the same as everybody else. You are mentally ill and you are an inpatient. That is what you are. So the following slides I'm going to show you are some of the memories that I have of particular people and of some of the experiences. Also, all names have been changed. Obviously can't tell you what those names were, but everything that I'm going to tell you is 100% real. So, first thing, you walk on that ward, you're showed wherever you're going to be sleeping, and your inventory is taken of what you have. Now, nothing else is explained, so you're not told what time breakfast is, you're not told why the door's locked, you're not told that if you're sectioned, you can't leave, but you're also not told that if you're not sectioned, you also can't leave because it's a locked ward, and it's up to the nurse's discretion of whether they let you out or not. You're not told any of those things. The responsibility to tell everybody what your patient life is going to be like should be with the staff, but it's not. It's the patients that tell you how things are going to work. It's the patients who tell you what time breakfast is, how you get your cup of tea, what time the drink trolley come out. It is the patients who carry you through that experience. You will never meet a more diverse group of people than you do on a psychiatric ward. And where you might not meet them in the outside world, in your general life, on here, you become a tight-knit group of people. You become a family, almost. Now, these are a few of the people that actually have made a difference to my experiences. So Nancy, she's 35, and she had 4 children, and all of them had been taken away because she was a prostitute, and she also had been raped. Now, the police said that it's not a problem because you're a prostitute, rape doesn't count. But for her safety, for her mental well-being, she was sent to psychiatric ward. Now, at the time, there was a Coronation Street storyline about rape, and they wouldn't turn the TV off. They said, if you don't like watching the TV, you can leave, you can go to your room. Now, she was so crippled with her anxiety and her depression and her problems that she couldn't move. So while we watched Coronation Street, I held her hand. And Nancy did not wash for 2 weeks when she was on that ward. Nancy had no teeth. But every day, Nancy gave me a hug every single morning because it's what I needed. I absolutely needed that contact. And she kept me going. She was the kind of person that was there for me, although we would never meet any other kind of different life. She also said, when we get out, we're going to go for a night out. I think my idea of a night out and Nancy's idea of a night were two very different things. But having that relationship with her carried me through. Justin. Now, I didn't really understand why I was in hospital on one of my admissions. I had no idea. But I had this fear. And one morning I woke up and I couldn't move. Again, couldn't move. Managed to get from my room to the kitchen, and it's kind of a bit like this. You'd have like a living room area and then the kitchen area. And I got from my room to a table. And then that was it, I couldn't move anywhere else. I started crying for no reason, but I couldn't understand why I was crying. I couldn't even communicate what was wrong with me because I didn't understand anything at that point. So Justin was walking past the table and he said, "Oh, Kat, are you okay?" I couldn't speak. So he sat down and he hugged me and he asked somebody else to go and get a member of staff. Member of staff came back and said, "What are you doing?" Couldn't speak. "Well, why are you crying?" Couldn't speak. "Just go to your room then. You're not communicating, go to your room." I couldn't move. So he walked off. The psychiatric nurse walked off and left me in that kitchen with nothing. Justin sat there for an hour and he rolled up all of his cigarettes for that day. He told me the story of how him and his girlfriend got together, how they were trying to get a house, how they were trying to get off drugs and get straight. And the one thing he said to me as I was crying, not knowing what was going on, he said, "I want to be like you because you've got a job and that's what I aspire to be like." At the time, couldn't understand how that could possibly happen, but he carried me through that experience as well. Wayne slipped through the net. So I take it everybody's been on, you've got done placements on wards, yeah. So Wayne had a girlfriend and she would not come to meet him. She would not come and visit him at all. She could not handle his depression. So finally, after days and days of begging, she actually said, I'm going to come and visit you. You know, I had leave. I had one night leave. After being in for about 4 or 5 weeks, I was allowed to go home. And Wayne said, "My girlfriend's coming to see me. When you come back, Kat, we'll have a cup of tea, I'll tell you all about it, you can tell me about your leave." And I said, "Brilliant, let's do it." So I went home, I came back the following day, I couldn't find him. So I said, "Where's Wayne?" And like, "Oh, don't know where he is." Staff would not tell me where he was. And then I asked one of the patients, and they said, "Oh, his girlfriend came to see him. She broke up with him, and he went to the shop after she'd left." Staff, knowing that he was upset, he went to the shop, he bought a bottle of antifreeze, he drank it, he ended up in intensive care, and he died. Slipped through the net. When you work in an environment where you know someone's upset, when you know that something dreadful has happened, that his world was already falling apart before that, you know that person is going to be affected by that experience. So they should have asked him, "Are you okay?" Whether he would have admitted a yes or no, I'm not sure. But the fact is that you can't save everyone, but you can try. Phil, again, he was schizophrenia, and he had this compulsion to harm himself. And one particular day, he couldn't cope with whatever was going on, and he hurt himself, he slit his wrist, and then he did it in a cubicle. And then he was confused as to what he should do. I thought he had no idea. He panicked, he ran out into the corridor, there was blood everywhere. It was not happy, and not a happy sight. And then they gave him lorazepam, and then they gave him a support worker or a nurse to look after him for an hour each time. Every single person that came was watching over him said, "It's been very silly. What did you do that for? What did that achieve?" He didn't achieve anything, but then speaking like that is not going to achieve anything either. He didn't need to be told he was silly. He didn't need to be told that he'd done the wrong thing. He just needed to be asked why, and maybe that would have had a different outcome. I was the same. I self-harmed on the ward, and it's not something I'm proud of. It's not something that I advertise, but I did do it. I got the same treatment. I was out of university, deferred the second time, and they said, you're intelligent enough not to do that. What have you done it for? It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. It doesn't matter how much life experience you have. The point is, that person may feel 100 other people who are struggling at that time. They need the care. They need you to ask why or what's wrong. Can we do anything to help you so that that doesn't happen again? I am not shy of the fact that I can be a nightmare on a ward. I have been that person that stands at the window and does this until it's answered. I have been the kind of person who will not so much annoy, but who will play with the nurses because I'm not getting what I need, and other people aren't getting what they need. I have been that person. I'm not proud of it. It's not something that, as a person who is well, would do, but in that moment, in that time where you're poorly, when your diagnosis is causing problems, that's the behaviour that sometimes happens. The only thing that I remember thinking, I remember saying to a nurse once when she was saying, just behave yourself. And I said, what do you do at 5 o'clock? Should I go home? I said, exactly. You go home, I get to stay here, and the nightmare carries on. Now, aftercare. So, is anybody in the community? Well, going to be in the community. Okay, so this is what you don't do. So, aftercare, when you've been in hospital, sometimes you're lucky enough to get a CPN, social worker. I got a social worker in 2004 was my first admission. I didn't know what a social worker was. I thought a social worker was to look after vulnerable children. I didn't know that it was for adults. So when he asked me, have you got any questions? The first question I asked was, when can I go back to university? I'd come out of university, halfway through my third year, nearly finished, couldn't do it, ended up in hospital. First thing I wanted to do was go back and finish it. He said, don't worry about university now, you've got a mental illness. Question next. What about getting a job? If I couldn't have my degree, if I couldn't do something, have my education, then I could not do anything. So I said I want to get a job, even if it's part-time. I said, don't worry about getting a job. You've got a very serious mental illness and there are all sorts of benefits available to you. At that moment, pushed across a piece of paper. He said, that's the form for incapacity and income support benefit. Fill it in and then we'll get the ball rolling. Nobody asked me if that's what I wanted. Nobody said, how much money have you got in your bank account, Kat? How much can you afford not to have money at the moment if you can't have a job? Nobody asked me a question. They gave me a form and said, fill it out. As if to say, this is all you're worth. You've been in hospital, can't go to university, you're not getting a job, this is what you're worth. This is the benefit system is going to be your life. So I thought, if I can't have my education, can't have a job, who's going to love me? I was single at the time. I thought, who on earth is going to want this? I'm bipolar, I've got no job, and I've got no education. Who will want me? And he said, you'll find having a relationship very difficult, if not impossible, because of my mental illness. So you can imagine it's 3 things just gone in three sentences. All of everything that I'd ever wanted. And we all have dreams when we're younger. We all have things that we wanted. I wanted an education, I wanted a job, and I wanted a boyfriend. I wanted to have a future with someone. But they were saying no. That wasn't just the only one. So let's have some fun now. Care coordinator number 2 said, what's important to you? I didn't really understand what she meant by what's important to me. She was the same age as me at the time. So she said, the important things to me are having success in my career, having the things that I want, and impressing my family, proving to my family that I can do these things. So I said, well, those are my sort of things. That's what I kind of want. She tapped my hand and she said, maybe we should think of something a little more realistic for you. It's good to dream, but maybe you should concentrate on getting out of bed in the morning and going for a walk. I'm not a walker. I like shopping, so I walk around shops, but that was not for me. I didn't want to do that. Care coordinator number 3 treated me as an illness. They did not see my name. They did not see my personality. they said, right, okay, you're not working at the moment, so let's get you doing something. So her idea for me to do something was to go to a drama group. Now, I'm all for drama groups, and I'm all for pretending to be a tree and a gorilla, if that's what you want, if that's the kind of thing you want. So when I was told to imagine my fingertips as leaves and chase myself around a room as a gorilla, that was not what I wanted. I had a B in GCSE drama. I wrote my own monologue. As far as I was concerned, I was Meryl Streep. I was not the kind of person who would be doing gorilla stuff. Okay, go on to number 4. Now I went against all the rules and I got a job. I got a part-time job. It wasn't a great one, but I got a job. I was very impressed with myself. I was happy that I'd done something. Not only that the care course had said I couldn't do, but to prove to myself that I could actually get a job. So they said, no, don't advise that. What do you advise? Turn the job down and engage in the services we provide. I said, what services do you provide? The drama club. This was not for me. This was not what I wanted. I did not want to be in a drama club. I didn't want to be on benefits. I wanted a job. But not the most important thing was I wanted to have the opportunity to have a decent life, because I didn't want what those people were saying. I wanted more for myself. As a human being, I thought that was my right to have more. But I didn't have any help with that. So I was miserable, because living the life that I was currently living was not what I wanted. And I was desperate. I was sad. I was depressed. I was flowing from mania to depression because I couldn't get a grip on anything. I didn't have what I needed. I didn't have the tools that I needed. So I made a decision that was going to impact people in a way that I wasn't sure what it was going to be like. So it was a massive decision, and it could have gone very, very wrong. The decision was to prove them wrong. So it is harder to it's easier to give up on life than it is to cling on to it. It is far easier to say, no, I don't want to do this anymore, I can't do it, than it is to say, do you know what, I have to prove to the doctors, to the social workers, I have to prove to my family that I can do this, that I can be something. But most of all, I had to prove to myself that despite having bipolar, despite having a mental illness, despite everything that people were saying that was going against what I wanted, against what I thought was good for me, I had to prove that I could do it. I had to prove to those people that they were wrong and I was right. So I went back to university. It's not easy. My 3-year course turned into 6. And in those 6 years, I had 3 major bipolar episodes, and I had to come out of university 3 times. And that is not an easy thing to do. However, do flip it on the other side, I did get to do 1 module 3 times. So by the 3rd time, I pretty much knew what was going on in that module. But I had to make sure that I didn't give up. I had to make sure that I could still pull this off. So I got a job, in fact I had a few. Does anybody know Home Delivery Network? Poor man's Amazon Prime, dreadful company. I lasted about 2 months. Nestle factory. Anybody like white chocolate? No, okay, don't eat white chocolate. I worked in the cafe in the Nestle factory. And when I started, they give you a tour around the factory. So I had a tour walking around, and then there's like a lovely puddle of white chocolate. And I said, oh, that's awful, look at all that wasted chocolate. And the lady was showing me around and said, oh, don't worry about that, we'll just scoop it up and put it back in the thing. So if you ever have a Milky Bar, think twice. STA Travel. I love it when people like that. He said, you'll never look at Milky Bar twice. STA Travel, I worked there for 10 years, and I look back on it and I think, why did I do that job for 10 years, which we will come on to later on. No, it all looks good. Did my degree, all looks good, I got a job, not many, but I tried with everything I had in me to be that normal person. But the problem was I neglected to accept the fact that I do have an illness, and the things that I was doing by taking my medication, it wasn't everything that I had to do. I had to do more, and I didn't know that. So I kept going into hospital and having episode after episode, and in 2011 I had my worst one. I thought I could save the world. Now I don't know how people could relate to that. I 100% thought that I was the saviour of this universe. I thought on my own I could do it. So I was admitted, and my psychiatrist wasn't convinced by my 8-page plan of how to save the world. Now I was going to explain that I had a plan for the education system, I had a plan for the police, a plan for the army situation, everything you can possibly think of, I had a plan for it. You asked me a question, I had an answer every single time. But Dr. Miller was not convinced. He tried to tell me a number of times that I was wrong. Then he got to a point and he said, holding my 8-page plan, what if this isn't possible? What if everything you have here is because you're ill, not because it's real? So I said to him, this is no way for a person to live. I don't want to be like this. I don't. If what you're saying in your hand that I've spent hours and hours and hours writing is not real, this is not what I want. And he said, I will get you the life you want and the life you deserve. Never heard that before. At the time, I thought my 8-page plan is what I wanted, but that's because I was ill. I didn't realise that what he was saying could actually be the truth. He said, you have to learn about your illness. You have to learn about it so that you can take control of it rather than it taking control of you, which is what I had been doing for so many years. I've been letting my bipolar take control of my life. While it's there, it will always be there, I was letting it rule the roost. So you can imagine it was like hearing the voice of 1,000 angels singing. I did not know that somebody would believe in me that much. I did not know that he would be able to say, it is possible. You can have a life you want and a life you deserve as long as you work for it in a better way. So you can imagine my excitement when he says care coordinator number 5. I thought, oh, are we still doing this thing with care coordinators? I thought we'd established we don't get along. And he said, I'll find you a good one. And I said, well, you better, because otherwise it's not going to work. Please welcome Asha. Now, I was an inpatient at this point, so she was coming into the hospital to speak to me as an individual. The worst thing Asha could have done on that first appointment was be 15 minutes late, and she was 15 minutes late. So the first thing I said to her was, you're late. And she said, I'm really sorry, it's traffic. And I said, well, that's not my problem, it's yours. You knew what time you were supposed to be here for. I mean, I had nowhere else to be. I was an inpatient. I had nowhere better to be. She was probably coming from one client to her next, but I didn't care because she was supposed to be there for me at 3 o'clock and it was 15:15. However, I did apologise 20 minutes later because she spoke to me as a person. She spoke to me as a person and not my diagnosis. She looked at me as an individual. She helped me to learn how to identify my symptoms because that is a big thing. If you can see it before it happens, you can have a better chance of pulling it back in. She helped me gain knowledge about my medication as well. I was never going to not be on medication, but she made me realise that something might work and something might not work as well, and how do we work around that? How do we change that? How do we approach a doctor by saying this is not going to work? She also helped me make positive changes. So she never asked me, you can't do this, you can't do that. She never told me any of those things. What she did was help me become aware of myself and then allowed me to have that question and see if it was something that I could look at. Because of Asha, I have been hospital free since 2011. I have had episodes, that's to say the least. I have episodes, it's not going anywhere, but I have not been as ill as to go into hospital because she taught me how to notice it. She taught me what to see. She taught me how to react to it, and instead of letting it happen, which I was usually doing, she taught me how to nip it in the bud, as they say. Dr. Miller and Asha made me realise that I had to make some changes. So I made a few basic changes, and this is the right start. I take regular medication as prescribed. So whatever my consultant prescribes, I have a discussion. If it's going to work, it works out. Regular sleep routine. I'm the most boring person when it comes to my day-to-day life. I get ready for bed at 8 o'clock because I know what I have to do the next day. Doesn't mean I go to sleep, but I have such a routine that I know that I can sleep within those hours. I know that I have an active and full life outside of those hours, but it helps keep me healthy. It helps keep me regular. And no computer after 9 p.m. I do tell people that I use a tablet, but it's not got a keyboard, so it's not a computer. No, I don't drink anymore, so that's lemonade in the picture, and teetotal. And I don't watch the news or read newspapers. Most people will say, how do you get through life? Quite easily, because I don't have to know about all the sad things that are happening. If I know about all of those things, it will affect me, and I'm not able to not let something in there. So I protect myself by not looking at newspapers, by not looking at the news, and I live a better life for not doing it. We can't get away from everything. I know all about what's going on in Gaza, I know that, but I don't study it because I know that's detrimental to my mental health. I also educated myself on my own version of bipolar, which I saw at the beginning. So those things are the things that I look out for. As you get older, it sort of adds to it as well. So you never get less symptoms, you sometimes get more. So against all odds, I did graduate with a 2-2 in literature and linguistics. I've never used it, but I got what I wanted. And in 2015, I bought a house. Now, houses we all know houses are very expensive, don't we? It's very difficult to get on the property ladder. So I found someone to buy it with. There's Matthew. He's just as weird as me, really. But maybe that's why we clicked. So yeah, so we got married in 2016, been together for 10 years, and he was the person that saw through the bipolar. I told him on the third date, this is the deal. He went, okay, that's fine. And we've worked tight since then. So living with bipolar disorder is not easy. I did this a few weeks ago in stigma training, and somebody said, "Oh, you make it look easy. I thought you were cured." Well, one, there's no cure for bipolar, which there was, but I make it look easy because of how I live my life. I make it look easy because I have certain things that I need to do within myself. It's not easy. Every single day is difficult. I wake up, I have to analyse my thoughts. I have to make sure I've had my medication at the right time the night before. I have to make sure that I have enough sleep. I have to make sure that I'm not looking for different things. I have to be aware that the music I listen to isn't taking me into anything. I have to do those things. It is so easy to lose track of what you're like and your condition. It's so easy to do that, but every day brings a different challenge. You can never know it all. So I stand here and I'm like, yeah, I've done all the research on myself, I know all about myself. An episode can come from nowhere and anything can be the trigger. So in February, remember what I said about these symptoms? Gone too far ahead of myself. So obsessing over music constantly, looking for meaning in lyrics, messages from singers, and trying to find the meaning behind so I can save the world, right? So in February, I was listening to Hatful of Rain by Delamitri. Does anyone know who Delamitri are? Nope, not one person, okay. I'm Caroline McJohn, I'm going. Right. Okay, Delamitri, look them up. Always the Last to Know is one song, Kiss the Thing Goodbye is another one. They're a 80s, 90s band. And I had this album in my collection for a very long time. And I was listening to it. And then there was something in one song, and that was it. Since then, to this day, I'm still listening to Delamitri. I played that album on repeat. So whatever, like if I was in the kitchen cooking, it was on the background. If I was going out for the day, I had my headphones on, that's what was in the background. If I'm in the shower, that's what's on. Constantly. Same songs. I had a playlist I had a long list, a short list, a short list, a mini list, a mini list, and a minimal list. All with different songs, and the different times of the day that I would listen to those things. If I wanted to listen to a certain song, I would play the minimal list because I knew that it was coming around quicker. Now, I had a crush on Justin Curry since 1997, really wouldn't, but it didn't just end there. I downloaded all of Delamitri's music and I downloaded all of his music as well, so I had even more playlists. I believed 2 months ago that 59-year-old Justin Curry was talking to me through three YouTube videos. So I was listening to the music, I was also on YouTube looking at the live performances, looking at the recorded videos for each single. I was watching all of those, and I would get to a point where I'd be sitting there and I would be saying to Justin Curry in his 1990 YouTube video, what are you trying to tell me? How do I save the world? Tell me what I need to do. What is the meaning of life? He's 59. I've never met him. I've certainly not met his 1990 self, but that was what I thought was real. What did I do about it? I spoke to my psychiatrist. I rang him up and I said, it's happening again. It's happening again. I believe that I'm being communicated to by singers. And I said, it must be real. If it keeps coming back, if this is one symptom that is a rhetorical symptom, why is it still coming back? It must be real. He said it's highly unlikely. So he added something into my medication, and he said distraction techniques. I can't do distraction techniques. If I want to listen to Justin Curry, I'm going to listen to Justin Curry. Nothing else will help. The thing with having an epiphany afterwards is that at some point when you're taking the medication, sometimes when the mist clears, you realise that what you thought was real isn't real. Justin Curry was never talking to me. He wasn't talking to me as a 59-year-old man. He certainly wasn't talking to me as a 1990 YouTube video. And the disappointment that brings with it. Not just the disappointment, but the embarrassment. When you told people that you think this is real, and then it turns out that it's not, you feel you've humiliated yourself. It is the worst feeling. And then when you've got to do a certain amount of damage control to make sure that what you've done doesn't affect your present and also doesn't affect your future, and you can help your future by taking certain things into consideration, it's hard work making things normal again. Really hard work. I'm not episode free at all. I wish I was. I have numerous episodes, but it's how I deal with them that makes a difference. Discrimination. Now, I'm sure you've all heard about mental health discrimination. These are a few examples. There are far more. A few examples of what I'm going to show you did actually happen. Most of them, I remember saying I used to work for STA Travel, yeah? Most of them happened there. So let's go into it. So has anybody heard anybody say, I'm having a bipolar moment? Yeah? Oh my gosh, she's so bipolar? Yeah. We all know in this room, or we should know in this room, that is a completely wrong thing to say. Nobody is having a bipolar moment. You don't have bipolar moments, you have bipolar episodes. Nobody is so bipolar, because there is no specific person that is the definition of bipolar. If we're going to go to the NHS definition, then we all know we're all the same. But if you're going to look at my slide that I had earlier with all of my different symptoms, then we know that if I'm so bipolar, then somebody else who is so bipolar is very different. So when I used to work at STA, there was about 7 of us that all got married and bought houses in a very short space of time, for like a year or something. And there was a lot of gossip and a lot of talk. And I remember one person, I passed a desk and somebody said, are people like that allowed to buy a house? You know, with that bipolar thing. And I thought, did she just say that? I said, great, okay. So obviously, yes, people are allowed to buy a house with that bipolar thing. I've never seen a mentally ill person before. This is a fun one. It was a call centre, so the desks were very open, and there was about 7 or 8 people on each one. And I remember a girl walking past, she was an intern, she was walking past, and she kept staring at me as she walked past the desk. I thought, what's she doing? And she did it multiple times, and it got really irritating. So I said to her friend that worked on the same desk, I said, can you tell me why Sarah's looking at me? Why? Because I was getting paranoid about it. I thought, sure, have I got like something on my hair? I've got the wrong clothes on, I'm not quite sure. And she said, I'll speak to her. So then she came back and she said her response was, oh, I keep staring because I've never seen a mentally ill person before. I was not mentally ill. I was very contained. I was very healthy. And just because I have a diagnosis does not make me whatever she's viewed as mentally ill. This is my favourite one. So I'd been in hospital for about 2-3 months, and I went back to work, and they have like this, you know when you do a tea run? So there's about 8 of us on the desk, and then this girl steps up and she says, does anybody want tea or coffee? So I'm a big tea drinker, I love tea. So I said, yeah, I'll have one, and about 7 other people all said they would have as well. She picked up 6 mugs and left one. Mine was the one that she missed. So the guy I sat next to, he says, oh, you've forgotten to take cat's milk. And she went, oh no, it just confuses things. So I thought, that's a bit strange. So he went, right, okay, Kat, I'll take it to her. So he picked my mug up, took it to the kitchen. 2 minutes later, came back with a cup of tea for me. He said, I've made that because Sarah thinks that she's going to get you bipolar by touching your mug. Yeah. Can you imagine sitting in that environment, knowing what these people think of you? That you can't buy a house, you can't, you look mentally ill, and you don't deserve a cup of tea because someone thinks that they're going to catch it from your mug. Now, this was not a stupid company. These people were quite intelligent, and I thought, obviously not intelligent enough to be human, to react to a human as a human being. It doesn't stop there. So we're all going to work for GMMH, aren't we? Yeah. So this is a few examples of what I've had in the last 20 years with GMMH. So some of my favourite ones are people with bipolar disorder are very rarely successful. Right? What else have we got? You're too busy for someone with bipolar disorder. You need to stop seeing some of your friends. Where have we got? You will never become a mental health nurse because your illness is too severe. I wanted to be a mental health nurse at one point. I wanted to kind of go into this sort of thing with a fresh idea, so that I would make sure that the mistakes that happened to me weren't made again. I wanted to do that, but when I had an episode, I was in hospital, I was trying to apply for it, and they said, don't bother, it's too severe, you'll never manage that. So psychiatrists now, sometimes people with low self-esteem create ideas of grandeur to make themselves feel better. I was not creating an idea of saving the world because I felt bad about myself. I thought I was wonderful. I thought I was the best thing since sliced bread and I was going to save the world. That was not because I had low self-esteem. People with mental illness choose invasive surgical procedures as a form of self-harm. Now, what I haven't mentioned is I have a stoma. Does everyone know what stoma is? Yeah, so I have a stoma. And when I was waiting for my operation, my surgeon actually had to write to my psychiatrist and say, this is what we're doing, and can we have a plan for her medication? So the psychiatrist at the time, it didn't last very long, he said this. The thing is, you can't lie with biology. If my bowel isn't working, that's not because I want to self-harm, that's because my bowel doesn't work and I can't go to the toilet and it's at the point where my bowel is going to explode and then I won't be here. This was not because I wanted to self-harm. That was a surgeon who'd done numerous tests, numerous investigations, said this is what she needs. This is my favourite one. Most recent one, 2020, home-based treatment team, stood in my house making a judgment of myself. And then after she disappointed me all the way through the appointment, she stood up, she's doing a close-up and she said, for a bipolar person, you've got a really nice house. I would love to know what a regular bipolar person's house looks like, because I've got many friends and we're all pretty good at keeping a house. Back to when I was wanting to be a writer. I wanted to write stories that would be on the shelves in Waterstones. I wanted to go to bookshops and do signings and all that kind of thing. I have a big cardboard thing with my face on it and my best-selling novel. I've not managed to do that. I'm still a writer, but I've never managed to get published. But there is one story that I can tell, and that's mine. In 2014, I decided I wanted to do some public speaking. I reached a point where I'd been with my husband for about a year, and I wanted to he gave me the courage and the inspiration to say, oh, do you know what, Kat, you've done really well with this. You can go out there and do more. If you want to do public speaking, I'll support you. So I went to a speaking club with a lot of old ladies, and the first speech I did, it knocked the socks off because I didn't even know what mental illness was. So that was an interesting thing. But they gave me the confidence to do it. They gave me the drive to do it, and so that I knew I could do some form of this. I entered a competition to represent Bolton Speaking Club. I won a prize. I came first in the North Pennine area speech contest. I talked about drag queens, but I still came first prize. I've never won a raffle, but I got that trophy. So this man in the corner, Richard McCann, he did my training, and he said to me at the beginning of it, so what do you want from this? My first boot camp I did, and what do you want from it? What's the goal? And I said I wanted to talk to people, to professionals, I only need to talk to people who might listen and might take in what I'm saying and maybe make the things that happen to me, again, not happen in the future. They might have a different outlook on life. It might just work out for other people. Lady in the middle, they wrote Coronation Street. Yeah, so very few of you, okay. This is going to be nothing there. So Coronation Street very, very badly had a bipolar character in it. And they asked for lived experience to go, and I went and I met the actress and I met the producer and the writers. And I told them what it was like being a bipolar person. And Connie Hyde was the actress that played it, and we've actually stayed in touch since then. And it didn't last very long. Coronation Street did a really bad job. I didn't hardly touched on it, but I got a friend out of it. I've spoken to colleges, universities. I've done this now. I went to an African church in January and I did it there, and that was probably my favourite one that I've ever done. And I started off doing this with nothing. I didn't know what a PowerPoint was. I had a prompt card, and when I had a prompt card, I would try and speak without looking at the prompt card. So I'd go ahead of myself and then have to ditch them because I didn't know what I was doing. I had absolutely no idea. And then I learned how to do PowerPoint. And then I learned how to put my speaking skills into my PowerPoint and also try and get some form of interaction with my audience, which I've done a really good job of today. These days, but you didn't expect this, I work for GMMH. I am the ward clerk at Honeysuckle Lodge, and my manager is in the back there. And she's come along to see if this is real. So yeah, so I absolutely love that job. I was made redundant by FCA Travel in lockdown. Best thing that's ever happened. As soon as they announced the redundancies, I was on Indeed with all the Teams meetings going on, they were trying to save the company. I'm going, no, I don't need it anymore. And I got this, and I've been there for 3.5 years, and I absolutely love it. It's given me an insight into how the system works behind the scenes. I think it can be improved sometimes. As a service user, I still think it can be improved. But I understand more things like food and fluid charts. I was on a food and fluid chart, but nobody had explained to me what that was. I didn't know what OBS were. I just thought there was someone shadowing me all the time, watching me go to the toilet. Nothing was explained again, so I know all of those things. So throughout this journey, I have learned one big lesson. I've learned a few, but the one I always stick to is that life doesn't end because we have a mental illness. It starts, life starts, the second you take control of it and you make the best of a bad situation. Thank you very much.
Talk to us. She is happy. If you guys do have any questions you want to ask at all, she can be here for a little bit longer. Does anyone have anything they want to put to Kat now we've got her here?
How did you overcome the stigma?
I've not. It's still there. It's still there. I think you have to work with it. And I think I run a bipolar support group in Manchester, and we always say in our meetings that even if you're well established with yourself, even if you know the ins and outs of the world, there is always stigma, and you can fight it. But I always say stigma is always there, so you have to constantly prove that the stigma is incorrect, that it's not right. Some of it might be, but you have to prove that you're more than what the stigma is. I think stigma is a negative thing, and like to turn it around is a hard battle, but it is doable.
This might be a bit of a tricky question because I know your manager's here, but what do you think GMMH is like dealing with your own mental health?
I think in the past I have experienced dreadful things. I am lucky that I work at Honeysuckle Lodge, where I think that they do a really good job. I'm very lucky that as a service user I have a psychiatrist that I get on with, and I think I always tell people that it is a negotiation process. Whoever's caring for you has to listen to you, and you have to listen to them, and it is a compromise. I don't think it comes down to the individual, the actual professional, and it's whether they can work with the individual and whether that person is also able to compromise. Because I know from personal experience I can be a very difficult person, I can be very stubborn, but I think if you have an environment where you can work with each other in that way, it's not always possible, but if you can find that common ground, then it is a lot easier. I do think GMMH can improve on some things, but
on the flip side of it, as a patient, how do you think GMMH deal with you as a member of staff with your mental health issues?
I'd have to say thumbs up on that one. I've had two biggish episodes. So in February I had one. I'm very lucky that I can say to my manager that I might need time off, or that we can chat about things, and I have a very open relationship with her and the ward manager as well. So because I have a good relationship with both people, it's easier to make my situation work. And I can, it's even the little things like saying you can have 10 minutes away from the ward, just email us and let us know where you're going to be. Or if I need to go home, I've never done that, but if I need to be somewhere else, then I will do that. But I make sure that my work is up to the right scratch. It's a personal thing. I don't like not doing what I need to do. So as long as I know I'm doing what I need to do, I know my managers have faith in me that I will do the right job and also take time out for myself, because they don't need you going off really. It's preferable not to. So if I can work around it, I have that relationship with them that's fine.
And your manage during the COVID period?
Sorry?
And your manage during the COVID?
All right. So I it was COVID worked out better for me because I was having an episode, so I wasn't really in the right place. I was kind of trapped in my house, which I probably wanted to leave anyway. So I surrounded myself with the things that I needed and the things that I could have. The hardest thing was not being with my mum, but my mum does live up 2 doors away from me, so it was a lot easier to kind of stand at a back gate and like, hi, I'm still there kind of thing. But I think I've always said that if COVID was to happen again, I would find it a lot more difficult being healthy to deal with, because also there is the knowledge of what's going on in COVID. I didn't have that. I stayed away from it. So I knew there was something bad happening, but I didn't actually acknowledge what it was. I steered away from it. So I think it will be a lot difficult now to deal with.
Do you think, when you spoke to the professionals, do you think a lot has changed on the wards today?
I can only answer that as like the ward that I work on is very different. It's a rehab unit. So I've not been on an acute ward for a very long time, so I actually can't answer that question. I would hope that it's changed.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we had an example. It was one lady that she came onto the ward, she was in her 60s, and she had a silver coat, and she was on the ward for 2 weeks, and every single day her silver coat turned a bit more brown, and she was not going to the toilet, and she was soiling herself. Her room was like a dirty protest, and the staff gave her nappies to put on, and then they didn't actually explain to her how to put these nappies on. So she came into the lounge, and one of the support workers was kind of picked the best seat on a Saturday afternoon where they were showing American Idol rerun, and she picked a nice little poo thing and a nice high back down chair, and the Dorian came in and she said, oh, I don't know how to put these on, she's covered in poo. And then the support worker said, what are you doing? Get out, that's disgusting. She pushed her up the corridor. I saw that. I went to see if Dorian was alright, then saw the state of the room. And when we reported it, me and another patient, this nurse in charge said, are you absolutely 100% sure what you saw? Because remember where you are. I hope that kind of thing has changed. That kind of reaction. Because our word as an inpatient meant absolutely nothing. But so I hope that has changed. That's just an example.
It sounds too personal, maybe should not answer. I'm just wondering, because we normally talk of family being a protective factor. How would you compare your episode before marriage and after marriage?
Worse, because before I got married, I had absolutely no control, no knowledge. All I thought I had to do was take my medication, so I could do anything else. It was fine. So I had no routine on sleep, or no routine on taking medication. I would just do it willy-nilly whenever I could, whenever I remembered. And I think the 2011 admission was a big thing for me. It basically said you cannot keep doing what you're doing. So I had to make sure, that's when I started changing. So when I met my husband, so 2011 was the admission, I met my husband in 2013. And at that point I'd kind of got a grip on what was going on. And it also made having a relationship easier because I could say to him, I have this, it's not the best situation, it's not great, it's not going anywhere, but I also know how to deal with it to make sure that it doesn't get to that point again. So the episodes were worse to the extent of going in hospital, and the response to them now is a lot easier, but having an episode of bipolar anyway is not pleasant. It does not, the whole music thing, you think it's great when it first starts, and then it becomes a compulsion. When you think that something's real and it's not real, it's still got the same feeling as it did back in 2008.
More questions?
So I have a two-part question. The first one is, was there any support for your husband? And the second is, if you have a partner that's kind of in denial of your condition, how do you?
So I can only answer the first one. So there was support. It was terrible. So we went to an appointment where I had to see a psychiatrist, and it was on the home-based treatment team. And I saw him, and then a guy came out to see my husband and my mum, and they said, is everything okay with you two? Well, okay, that's fine, and that was it. They got, is everything okay? See you later. That's all they got. So luckily enough, they had each other. So mum's been through this for a very long time, and Matt has only kind of recently seen it, but there was no real support. It was almost like a tick box. Like, you're under home-based treatment team, you've seen a psychiatrist, you've got a visit every day by this person, this person, this person. Have we ticked the box for your husband to see if he needs anything? Yes, done. That's all it was.
I must commend you. You have had incredible having resilience and have an ambition. I wonder how you cope with all the ups and downs. But my question is, if you were to see the MD of GMMH, what's struggle with that word? GMMH. If you were to see the MD today, based on your experience, what would you advise him to change?
To change.
Reform. So what do you
To see it, I'd love a conversation with them. I would do this first, and then say, this is all stuff you can't do. And I would say, make sure every single person that works for the service has the same, we're not going to have the same idea, but has a similar idea of listen to that person. Ask that person what they want, what they need, why they need it, and when they want it back, and what can they see in the future. Nobody ever asked me that. It was a case of like, no uni, no job, here's your benefit form, that's it. Nobody gave me an idea of what my life would be like. No one said that you could actually have a life after it. I would definitely say, make that person aware that they could have something. It's not, we're not all going to achieve the same things, but make sure each individual on that ward or in the service has some form of light at the end of the tunnel. That's all. That is I think that's the most important thing, because then you're looking at the individual before you're looking at the mentally ill.
Okay, one more question if there is one. Lovely. Should we do another round of applause? And I think you'll all agree it's such a special thing to have Kat here, to have Kel here earlier to talk to us. And we're going to put on, let me just, the screen's still working. In the background I'll put on our, survived so well. I'm going to put on our feedback form for today.